Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first webinar of this school year for the Learning Network. We have 3 others coming up that we're going to tell you about at the end. But for now, I'm Catherine Chilton.
I'm Michael Gonsher.
And we're the editors of the Learning Network. Let me introduce Cassie, who we're lucky enough to have with us. She is a Times video journalist, and she's been with the Times for 14 years. And as a video journalist, she's traveled all over the world, including she's been to Cambodia, Ethiopia, Niger, all over Europe, and all over the U.S. She's covered everything from the rebuilding after Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana to what she told me was training camps for urban basset hounds. She'll have to tell you more about that. I really don't know.
This is Michael Gonsher. I'm one of the editors also of the Learning Network. I'm really excited that we have Krista Forster with us today. She's an English teacher at the Kincaid School, an independent school in Houston, Texas. And she's going to be talking about how she uses New York Times visual resources with her students.
All right.
Hi, Michael. Thanks.
Oh, Krista, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I'm glad to be here. Thank you for including me.
Great.
I hope that many of you already know about the Learning Network, but if you don't, this is what our site looks like now. We've been around since 1998. We've been through a few iterations. We are largely free, and every single thing that we ask students to do on the site is free, and everything we link to in the New York Times thereby becomes free for students as well. It is our job to take the vast riches of the New York Times, and we're going to dazzle you, if not just overwhelm you today with all the stuff that you could find in the New York Times to teach with. It's our job to make that easy for you by taking the videos, the articles, the essays, the podcasts, the infographics, and putting them, creating lesson plans, student writing prompts, contests, all kinds of things out of them. And I'm going to show you a bunch of those today. The New York Times has been known for its photojournalism forever. As you can see in this image, assuming you're seeing it, that there's the iconic July 20th, 1969 Men Walk on Moon front page with those photos right in the middle. On the right-hand side is just a sample print front page from last week where you see the Times now uses color. But if you're just reading the Times in print, you're missing so much that is really, really useful for teachers. And that's what we're going to present today. I'm going to take you on a slightly whirlwind tour of some especially useful parts of the Times before Cassie goes a little bit more in depth about how she does her job and the kind of cool things that you might want to use with your kids. We'll then end by showing you how we take this stuff and use it on the Learning Network and introduce you to ways that you can bring your students and have them interact with it. So first, the Lens is the Times photojournalism site that you may not know about. It publishes daily, and it's deep dives into really interesting subjects. If you see here, for each of these, there's 15, 18 images taken by Times photographers and taken by outside professionals. Teachers tell us this is gold because you can really engage your kids before they've read an article or whatever with some of these images. The other, something we're going to talk about more in depth later in the webinar is our infographics. The Upshot is a Times feature that analyzes politics, policy, and everyday life via data. And they create all kinds of beautiful infographics of all kinds to show you that data. The image here is not actually from the Upshot, but we're going to talk about it later in the webinar. There's a whole series now at the Times about how obesity is changing around the world. And you can see here from 1985 to 2015, these are some of the maps that show how obesity is increasing. But lest you think that it's just for social studies or maybe just STEM teachers, I want to point out that the Times also sometimes uses data journalism for humanities subjects. That is fantastic for English teachers. So this one, for example, How and Why Jane Austen Endures, took a look at the word choices that show Jane Austen's, quote, acute emotional intelligence and analyzed those word choices against writing of her peers, her contemporaries, to show why her stuff still resonates. And it's not only a fascinating graph, but a fascinating article. I'm sorry, we're going fast, and I'll probably go too fast, but you should know that every single thing I'm saying will be available to you in a handout that you can get. Tony, sorry, where is it? in the...
If you go to the resource widget?
In the resource widget. Everything I'm saying is there. All the links are there. So you can just, let this wash over you for now. Cassie's about to talk about Times Video. This is the Times Video landing page that takes all of the video from around all the sections. And you can see this is from last week, and sadly that explainer, how are hurricane categories defined, was much needed for the last few weeks. But there's all kinds of separate video areas that are useful for students, and I'm going to show you a few. One is the Daily 360. Cassie's actually going to show you one of those that she worked on. These are created so that you can actually take your mouse and go inside the image and move it around 360 degrees and experience a place. There's also for ELL students, and we hear from teachers, ELL students love this. There's very little writing or speaking in a lot of these, so it's mostly image, but whatever writing there is on the screen, and so you can they can follow along. And this is on subjects, as you can see here, everything from the changing Amazon to a contentious Supreme Court case. If you don't know about Science Take and you're a science teacher, these are delightful. James Gorman hosts them. They're about 3 to 5 minutes long, so they're quick. They're mostly about creatures, so if you teach biology, they're especially useful. They're just a window into some interesting scientific phenomenon, and they're fantastic. We used to sit with science, and I'll just say that the most recent one he did with a dog, that dog was running around the New York Times all day, and go look it up. It's about if dogs recognize themselves. So, okay, and then the last thing I'm going to say before I turn this over to Cassie is that if you aren't aware of it, the Times is really doing a lot with virtual reality these days, and we've had, you'll find this link in the resources, but we actually had a teacher write about how important that is for his students, because using virtual reality to understand parts of the world that you could just read about before really increases their empathy. He had them do the Times did a whole series on the migration crisis where you actually felt like you were with people as they were traveling overland and, escaping from whatever was going on in their country of origin. And there's a whole lesson plan on that. There's also a deep dive on Antarctica for climate change. And then this one's called The Land of
Salt and Fire.
Land of Salt and Fire, about the hottest place on Earth. Cassie, I'm going to turn it over to you. Maybe you want to talk about that one, but go ahead.
Sure. So first of all, thanks. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm actually very happy that you just used the word empathy, because it's a driving factor, I think, for me and how I approach what I do for the New York Times. But I wanted to start. I also teach for CUNY, for the City University Graduate School of Journalism. And when I start teaching video to these students, the first thing I say is this mantra that I stick to, which is, you remember 25% of what you see, 50% of what you hear, and 100% of what you feel. And so I like to think that good video can be just another dynamic way to engage students or just our viewers on news and current events. The image you see right there is actually, that was something I shot in virtual reality in Ethiopia, in a place called the Danakil Depression, the hottest place on Earth, very low to the Earth's core. And you don't need fancy goggles or anything. You can go to our website and you can scroll around and really get a sense of this very remote place and learn about why these colors, the science behind these colors. So, that's one example of, I think, something, with virtual reality and 360, feeling. But the Times has, we've really, I've been here 14 years, and it's just remarkable to see how much video has changed here. We have a very robust unit right now, and we do lots of types of video. Catherine mentioned explainers. I mean, during the election, we had what is the Electoral College, which I think friends of mine were watching too. This is not just for students. We have news reports, on the ground dispatches. With Harvey, we had someone with her camera walking into a home waist high in water. We do the 360 videos, and then what I generally work on the most are enterprise videos. So let me just click here, and I just want to say something about the New York Times video that, I think it's different from maybe other video that can be consumed. Just to give you a sense, we are not your typical broadcast nightly news video. we're one-man bands. We're small group, we're small teams on the ground. And so I think that allows us to kind of slow stories down and provide, I think we are able to get a bit more of an intimate connection with the people who are impacted by these news events that we're seeing, every day. So this is one example of a piece I worked on. We were looking for a way to get into the Detroit bankruptcy a few years ago. And so what we were able to do is gain access to a school in the city and look at, okay, you've got a graduating class of students that are graduating into a bankrupt city. This should be a time of optimism. What does this look like? What does this feel like for these high school students? And so we invested a lot of time in this. We spent the senior year with them, and then we visited them a year later to see what changes had happened in their life. Were they still in the city? How their relationship to Detroit had changed. Let's see. And so here's just a 2-minute intro to that longer piece.
It happened so quickly. I live here, and it was like I blinked my eyes. It was like, where did that come from? Where did this little Detroit opportunity come from? There is a pop-up shop. Where did that come from? Custom suits and shirts. It's actually a wonderful transformation. But in about 15 or 20 minutes, you won't see any of it. This is the northeast side of Detroit.
Overnight, a new era has dawned in Detroit, the city after bankruptcy.
Yeah, the largest chapter.
Detroit is now the largest city in U.S. history to declare bankruptcy.
Good morning. Hi, Lavelle, sweetheart. Tuck your shirt in, baby. How you doing today? Good. All right. Good to see you at school today.
Good morning, Denby family. It is Thursday, December 12th, 2013. Remember, December 18th, next Wednesday, the holiday concert in Denby.
I describe Denby itself as a home. It's like a home away from home because outside of these walls, outside of this building, it's kind of sketchy. I'll pick up kids and, bring them on to school, and I'm driving through the neighborhood that they walk.
So that was a longer piece that we did. It was just an intro, but it's something you can find in full on our website. Just a couple of other projects to give you a sense of the scope of the work that we do with video. And these are just slides, so don't worry if you're not seeing video. These are just slides to kind of give you a visual representation. We partnered with Frontline to look at recidivism in Connecticut. And again, what can video do? I mean, it can get up close with the people impacted by, these statistics that we see and the news events. And so we followed 4 people who were from the moment they were released from prison through the first year after their incarceration. So we were lockstep with them. And, out of the 10, actually we followed 10 in total, and, 6 returned, and you're able to see, in real time why that was. This was a piece we did about discrimination for people with autism and intellectual disability in the medical field. Basically, this was, a family that was dealing with being kind of shunned from waiting rooms in hospitals because of their son, and 2 enterprising doctors who decided to create a clinic especially for people with intellectual disabilities so that they could feel welcome and get their medical needs met. And we also have fun. we like to tell stories and have fun occasionally. And this was one of my favorite stories about a group of mature women, for the most part over 80, who had been members of the burlesque circuit decades ago, who were coming to Baraboo, Wisconsin for a reunion. And that, if that's not something you want to watch, we're failing at our job. And if you want to learn some moves, you should find that video.
Yeah. It starts with the move.
It starts with the moves, yes.
Maybe not for your students, just for you.
So it might just be for you, for after school time. So in terms of the 360, I just think that's a wonderful resource. It puts you in a place. It gives you access. It's just another entry point. So this is a story we did about refugees fleeing Boko Haram, who were, it's just so desperate. They fled to the one concrete road on the border of Niger and Nigeria. And so, it was a disproportionate amount of women and children. And so we did short pieces where you're walking with the young girl getting water from the well twice a day. You're with the women who were enterprising enough to decide to build homes, jobs they've never had before. And they're short pieces. You don't need the goggles. Let me stress that. You can use your phone and walk and just kind of move your phone around, or you can use your mouse. And allows you just to kind of, take in these places and these scenes and these events. We just skip past this work. Since we're having some problems, we'll skip past.
No.
We can
we can't do this? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure. So this is, it's going to appear a little bit different than it will just because of the platform. But were you to watch this on our website, you'd be able to move around with your mouse, and see what life is like when, you've fled Boko Haram and are living on the side of a road with thousands of other people. Yeah. Okay. Click there. And just, do I have a couple, just a minute or two?
Take another minute
or two, just to give you a sense of how we do what we do, maybe how we're different from other video you might see. We basically pre-report. So with my job, I am either assigned a story or I pitch a story based on, what's in the news right now. I basically research it. I make a lot of phone calls, try to see what the story is, what makes a good story. Is there tension? Is there something new about it? Will we have access? And then I go out with my camera, I shoot it, I interview the important people, and I come back and I edit it. And when I'm editing, I just think about what are the 4 things I want my viewer to take away. Basically, it's about a good story, finding visuals and scenes that allow you to show rather than tell. We want to inform, entertain, and yet always maintain New York Times journalistic ethics and objectivity in our video pieces.
Thank you, Cassie.
Sure.
All right, and English teachers, that list will not surprise you because it's probably the same list you have for your students about their writing. So, yes, thank you, Cassie. And later we're going to talk about how you can use any of the films Cassie showed. I don't know about the burlesque one, that's up to you, along with a bunch of other Times video in your classroom with activities we have that could work for any of them. So we know that you don't have time to go through the ginormous amount of content the Times puts out every single day and figure out how to match it to your curriculum. So we try to do that as much as we can ourselves, and we do it through the things you see here. This is from our homepage. So if you aren't familiar with it, we have 2 writing prompts a day. We have quizzes. We've just started a new one called Country of the Week that features video, in fact. We have a regular photojournalism exercise that Michael's going to introduce you to, and we have contests all year round that I'll get to at the end of this, some of which ask for a visual response from students. So hang on, and we're going to take you through some of the features. The first one, that I want to show you, if you don't know our picture prompts, we started them last year, and we started them in direct response to teachers saying to us, it's hard to read whole New York Times articles for my students, especially ELL students. But the Times has so much beautiful visual journalism that we thought there's a lot out there where you only need the photo to start writing and to start thinking, and then it primes you to read the article. So every day we put a different one up, and we try weekly to ask a variety of kinds of writing. So sometimes we're asking for personal or narrative writing. Sometimes we're asking kids to make an argument, expository writing, analysis, etc. I'm going to show you an example of each. So these are all from last year. There's tons of fresh stuff up now. But for narrative writing, I won't reveal what this is from. You'll have to take advantage of the actual source itself. But we asked kids, what's the story behind this photo? Use your imagination and write the opening of a short story inspired by this image and post it in our comments. And by the way, right now we're reading the comments very carefully and pulling out our favorites every week and honoring those kids. So if you bring your students to comment on something we posted this week, you may see them called out at the end of the week. So that's an example of narrative writing. For argument writing, I think I picked one that we can all relate to. We can all talk about this. as a society, are we too addicted to our devices? And I think that photo or that image that we pulled might argue yes, since all those people are about to crash into each other. But we got a lot of kids writing about that. That's kind of a perennial. So there's an example of a picture prompt for argument writing. Personal writing. This is just an image from around holiday season last year, asking kids to just talk about their own traditions. Do they celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, winter solstice, or none of the above? What do they do? And we know kids like to write about their personal lives. We read thousands of comments from kids around the world every day, and we love reading them. We're all former school teachers. I should have said that. All of us spent at least 10 years in the classroom, and we miss it. So this is the closest we can come is reading their comments. We also pull what's called Times Op Art, which is the art in the op-ed section that almost makes an argument with art. This one you won't be surprised to hear was posted after the election last year. And we asked kids, this is an illustration that went with a recent Times op-ed. What do you think the image is saying? How does it relate to current events? And we got a lot of great responses to that. Finally, an example of critical thinking, we often pick something that's almost like scientifically interesting or geographically interesting and ask kids, what do you make of it? So for this one, we just asked, why are these goats in this tree? And give us a hypothesis. How did they get there? What are they doing? Maybe where in the world might it be? We hope that once kids come to our site and write about this, when they click the related article, which again will be free because they're coming from the Learning Network, they'll be primed to be interested in the content that they're about to learn. All right, I am going to hand this off to Michael, I think, to talk about our most popular feature.
Sure. So I'm talking about what's going on in this picture right now. This is actually, we're just beginning our 6th year running what's going on in this picture. And as Catherine said, it's certainly one of our most popular features. It's based on a simple concept. Every Monday, we post an image that appeared in the Times, and we strip it of its caption. And we ask students 3 simple questions. What do you see going on in this picture? What do you see that makes you say that? And what more can you find? During the school day on Mondays, we actually have live moderation by educators from an organization called Visual Thinking Strategies, VTS. VTS began its approach to make education programs at art museums more effective, and now they work in schools across the country. And what the moderators do is they really have helped raise the level of online conversation between students. They push students to back up their opinions with evidence, and they ask students to look more closely at the image and see what else they can see. And then on Fridays, we reveal for the classes what was the original caption and where did the photograph come from. So we're going to do right now our own what's going on in this picture. And so the next slide I'm going to show you is a photo that hopefully you haven't seen before. And I want you to use the group chat to tell us what's going on in this picture and what do you see that makes you say that and what more can you find. So here we go. Take a few moments to look closely at the image and then please share in the group chat what you see. So Jane looks like maybe it was a water main break. And Jane, I would say to you, what do you see in the picture that makes you say that? What are the details? Karen thinks it was a sewer worker where maybe the infrastructure was poor. Someone else is saying there was a pothole or road work. Maybe someone is hiding. Lots of ideas coming quickly. Maybe someone fell in a hole.
Hiding from the authorities.
Hiding from the authorities.
Somebody noticed Spanish in the picture. That's the kind of detail that kids really start seeing after a while.
Danielle wanted to know if he's a creepy thief. So I would say back to you, Danielle, what do you see in the picture that makes you say that? Someone thinks it looks like Bogota, and again, why do you think so? So there's lots of ideas coming in, and students participate in the conversation just like this, and we have hundreds and thousands actually of students participating. So thank you. I want to turn it over to Krista in Houston to share how she uses.
What is it?
Oh, right. Oh, no. All right, so let me read. Thank you for reminding me, Tony. Let me read to you the original caption. It was actually from a photo taken in 2013. Somebody thought it was Bogota, but it's actually Caracas. Here's the caption. Fermin Pena Fermin Pena attempts to repair a broken pipe in Caracas, Venezuela. And actually, when we do the full reveal on Fridays, we'll give more information than that. Sometimes we even ask the photographer for some backstory, but for the sake of time right now, I'll leave it at that. But thank you for participating. And now I'm going to hand it over to Krista. Share with us how you use the feature in your classroom.
Hi, Michael. Thanks so much for inviting me to participate. So I have used this in a variety of ways, and when I first encountered it, I began using it to scaffold my students' learning as I led toward our spring study of some Shakespeare plays at the time, and A Midsummer Night's Dream. Our study of these plays was definitely enhanced by starting out with what's going on in this picture, and I'll explain to you how I did that. So every week, as Michael said, a new picture is posted without a caption, and the 3 VTS questions focus on the picture. What do you see that makes you say this? And what more can you find? Are the questions that really help students grow as critical thinkers. In addition, the photographs that are posted are very relevant to our world. And so they are pulled in by the relevance, these images that, are things going on either right now or in the not too distant past. And so they're engaged immediately. And those 3 things, engaging, relevant, strengthening critical thinking, I was looking for activities that did that, especially because I knew after the previous election that I really wanted to focus on teaching critical thinking and writing with all my energy. And so when I found this, I was just thrilled. So I began by pulling it up in the classroom and asking my students, all as a large group, to talk about what's going on in this picture. And, they had very varied, and I would see each of them, what do you see that makes you say this? And we did it round robin style with about 15 students as a group the first time. One of the things I want to let you know is that simultaneously teaching my students to write analytical format, paragraph with a to the idea in the topic, and then analysis that explains how the evidence supports the topic statement, and then another piece of evidence, another explanation, and then a wrap-up. So, typical analytical formula. So I was saying that as I was introducing this activity, I was also teaching the analytical paragraph formula, topic sentence, evidence, analysis, more evidence, more analysis, and conclusion. So I was training them to think critically using the photograph, having them write their comments in that paragraph format, posting their comment, waiting to get the announcement from Catherine or Michael, the editors, that their comment had been posted. And as you can see on this slide, underneath Nicholas Limon's paragraph, which is a lengthy comment, you see my screen name and a picture of me with a lengthy reply. And so I was replying to my students' comments about their ability to support their hypotheses of what is going on in the picture. And that was great because they were having, the ability to think critically about something that was relevant, engaging, fun. They really loved doing this. They loved hearing one another's ideas. And in addition, writing their paragraphs in the comments section was a publication for each one of them. So all of a sudden they've gone from, just handing in a piece of paper to me to having the eyes of the world on their writing. That's very authentic. And they were super stoked about this. In fact, they were starting to like work so hard because, as you can see in this slide, they would not only get comments from me, but the visual thinking strategies moderators who work in the first couple of days of the week when the mystery is still intact, when we still don't know what's going on in the photograph. This VTS moderator commented on Nicholas Contreras' paragraph, on his thoughts. That was very exciting for Nicholas, and it was exciting for me, and it was exciting for all of us, for their peers to see, like, oh, what we say matters. It's not just going into some vacuum. We have a way to be heard in this activity. The thing that I want to show you, these reflections, is the students just, not only did they love it, these two comments are way more intellectual, but most of them were like, this was my favorite thing I've ever done. And they loved it because they learned how to read a text closely in a way that was, kind of sneaky on my part, because then they took these close reading skills and they transferred them to reading Shakespeare plays. And they had practiced for about 4 weeks with the what's going on in this picture activity. And so all I had to do with Shakespeare was to change the wording of the question a little bit and say, okay, what's going on in this scene? What do you see that makes you say that? What more can you find? And they had internalized this movement, this thinking ritual, so to speak. And because they had done it so often in a fun way, they were able to transfer that skill to really hard literature. I think with more ease and less trepidation, less anxiety. And in fact, the writing they did about the plays was the best writing I've ever gotten from students in my 27 years of teaching. And they also were able to use these questions to help them prepare a performance for their peers. So they memorized the scene and they were able to ask those questions. What's going on in my character? What do I see that makes me say that? And what more can I find? And they learned that these 3 questions are really golden. So I'm grateful that I found this. I'm so grateful that I found this activity. And what I will say is I've used it in other ways since then. We as teachers are so creative, and the Times gives us so much to work with. And I just want to say, go for it. Like, just, find something that like sparks your interest as a teacher. And I know that it will work for you and your students. So thanks, Michael.
All right, thank you, Krista. And it's actually not just English teachers who love this feature. For example, here's a quote from a science teacher. After practicing with what's going on in Picture Weekly, I started to see my students got much better at using evidence in their writing. For example, in their lab reports, they started to be much more detailed and to explain the context clues that led them to a conclusion. And here's another quote from an ESL teacher. They're great conversation starters to get my class speaking in English. It also brings up new vocabulary words. Students often use their personal knowledge of the world to figure out what is happening in the photos. Some students may have an advantage when the photos from their region of the world. Thanks. So we also find it's even adult education, elementary, middle, and high school. And I'll just say a word about that. Even though normally you have to be 13 and older to comment on our site, we found that a lot of elementary school teachers are commenting on behalf of their classroom. So 4th grade participating, 5th grade participating, and the teachers will just summarize the comments from students. We, in general, we get hundreds, and this year we're getting thousands of comments. So we've done 3 what's going in this picture so far. All of them have had over 1,000 comments this week. The week's not even done, and we have over 1,600 comments. I also want to say that we have some resources to support this feature. We have a lesson plan. And here I just wanted to point out this slideshow of 40 pictures from the first 4 years of what's going in this picture. And these photos can be used anytime, even when it's not Monday.
I'm not going to lie, guys, though we are a little nervous. We're like, well, how many can we handle? What if 5,000 kids come next week? But no, it's great, and they are responded to directly. So it's a wonderful thing. Because of the popularity of that feature, we started something new this year that's already really popular. What's going on in this graph? We do something quite similar to what we do with the photos, which is we remove some identifying information from some of the fantastic infographics that we take from the upshot, and we ask kids to come online and talk about what they notice and what they wonder about it. For this feature, we're working with the American Statistical Association, and they are our moderators because they have special ways to prod your students to think about what they're seeing, why, and how.
So, Cassie was talking about films, and we actually feature short New York Times films every Friday in our Friday Film Club. And in fact, this Friday we're featuring a film that Cassie, I think, produced about the Brazil.
Yeah, obesity. Yep.
Exactly.
And there's more to come on that, too.
Yeah, and so similar to what's going on in this picture, we ask open-ended questions of students. What moments in the film stood out for you? Why? Were there any surprises, anything that challenged what you know or thought you knew? What messages, emotions, or ideas will you take away from this film? And what questions do you still have? I would say all of our films are short. They actually average about 7 minutes long. And we often pull from Times documentaries and especially OpDocs. If you're not familiar with the OpDocs, it's New York Times Editorial Department's award-winning forum for short, opinionated documentaries. We provide a double entry chart for students to take notes while they're watching the film. You can actually use this with any film in the Times or any other film or any film that your students are watching. And I think this is our third year of doing this feature, and we now have a collection of over 50 films. So these films deal with all sorts of different topics, from short animated science films to films about refugees and about life in prison, or this film right here about lowrider fans in Odessa, Texas. We have films that broach complex subjects like race, teen pregnancy, sexuality, immigration, gender, and more. And so I'll just close this segment about our film club. Here's a quote from Teacher Man Joe from West Virginia, Maryland, somewhere maybe on the border there. I want to express how much NYT's OpDocs have influenced my teaching and my students' learning. I now have students create their own mini docs using smartphones or basic handheld cameras. Okay, they may not be NYT quality, but these products still offer viewers a glimpse into issues in their own discourse communities.
Okay.
So this Friday, the film coming up is How Junk Food is Transforming Brazil. That's the one that Cassie worked on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay, so we are speeding, and with the little bit of time we have left, I just want to talk about our annual contest. We add them every year. We have so many going on. There's never not a contest happening on our site. We also love to honor students, so we don't just pick winners. We pick runners-up. We pick honorable mentions. We publish their stuff. We try to get our fellow social media people at the Times to send out student work. So it's a great opportunity beyond the daily comments on our site to get your kids recognized. There are two in particular that we do every year that really go to visuals. One is what a contest we're running right now, which is our student editorial cartoon contest. This is a winner, a 16-year-old kid from last year, right before the election, published this one. I mean, it's gorgeous, right? And the date is, I wrote this down, October 17th is the final date. The final
deadline, yeah.
Publish, to put your kids in for this year. But don't worry, if you missed that contest, we have another one, English teachers. This is you might particularly like this. This, every year, I think it's sometime in the spring, January, February, we have what's called a vocabulary video contest where we give kids 15 seconds to take one of our words of the day and define it. They have to define it and sound it out. Basically, they have to do a video that kind of teaches you, and pronounce it, that teaches you what it means. And I chose this one because it makes me laugh every single time I've seen it. And I've seen it 47 times. So ready? 15 seconds of joy for you.
Nocturnal, adjective, belonging to or active during the night.
Well, we're at the questions portion of our time anyway, and you know what? Exactly on time. I'm just impressed with us. It's 4:50. That's what time we wanted to get to questions. So, what do you got?
We've received a bunch of questions, and thank you for using your Q&A widget. If you have any other questions, we might have time, so go ahead and submit them. There's a couple questions for Cassie.
Oh, wow. Great.
So this is from Ethel at Newtown Public High School. Do you choose all your own stories?
No, within video, no. We're not assigned to desks the way the newsroom, the print side is. But that being said, we're able to pitch our own stories, and I would say it's about maybe 30, 70. 30 we pitch ourselves, and 70% right now we're assigned or develop with an editor.
And we have another question for Cassie from Jane at the New School. Does 360 plan to do any New York City pieces?
We have, yes. We've done a few. One of my favorites was we basically spent a day navigating the city with a man who gets around in a wheelchair, and it just really gives you a sense of what is it like in the city, to get from point A to point B and use the MTA, and that's one of my favorite ones we've done in the city. But we have. I don't think we currently organize them by region yet, the 360s, just because they're relatively new. But I know we've done a few.
And we also have some questions for the Learning Network editors. Here's one from Sherry. She wants to know, how do you access what's going on in the picture archive photos?
So if you're talking about the 40, I guess that there's two ways I would do it, and I can put them in the group chat, or maybe Catherine will do that. One is we have a slideshow of 40 photos from the first 4 years, and so we'll put that URL in. And the other way is just to go to the What's Going On in This Picture landing page, and there you can see all of the photos and click on any of those posts back to 2012. So those are the two ways I think I would access past the archive for What's Going On in This Picture.
Somebody just asked in chat, I came late, how do I get to all this stuff? There is a resource that you can access, and it's a PDF, but I just put in a very useful link for everybody, the How to Use Our Site link, which basically takes you through our site is huge because we can't control ourselves. Whenever we get a new idea, we're like, yeah, that'll be cool, let's do that, and then we do it. So I don't blame you if you get a little lost, but How to Use This Site will navigate you through it, and it links to a lot of the stuff we mentioned, like the 40, I think that slideshow of the 40 images is actually even in there.
And I just put it it will be in there, and I just put it in the group chat as well.
And we have another question from, and forgive me if I'm not saying your name right, Japeth in Botswana, and he wants to know, how can we download some of the videos to use in class, especially given that they have Wi-Fi concerns?
I don't have an answer, and I'm not sure you can, Kathy.
Yeah, right now we can't. All of our videos are available on YouTube as well, and so they may have better settings, I think, for lower bandwidth. But right now it's through our site.
Okay, so you hear that. Everything's available on YouTube, and you may have better...
Yeah, just about all of our videos are available on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the New York Times channel.
Okay. Here's another question from Mary at the Bancroft School. Is there anything for librarians teaching source, evaluation, or copyright issues other than articles one can find?
Wow, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, Mary. Let me look. Is there anything for librarians teaching source? Oh, source evaluation. Yes. Oh, you mean fake news and reliability of sources? Oh, if I had a dime for every time somebody asked us for that, honestly, we've done several lesson plans on that, and honestly, we try to hit it almost every day. In fact, tomorrow's student opinion question, a feature we didn't even talk about, is going to be something like, do you always know when news is fake, or something like that, that helps kids. It's just a question for them to think about what they come across in their own news feed, and is it reliable or not. But we've also done multiple lesson plans, and I will find those and put them in the chat. I hope that's what you mean. I think it is.
We have another question here from Laura at South Anchorage High. I need some ways to tie in Common Core curriculum for learning disabled students and make it relevant for them. Any ideas?
how to tie in Common Core
curriculum for learning disabled students.
Well, I think so many of our features, well, sort of, without talking about whatever the specific disabilities are that the students might have, but we do have a lot of features that really hit the range of different skill levels. We have lots of features that rely on visual images, just like everything we've been talking about today, what's going in this picture and picture prompt. Those might be really great places to start. Our film club as well, I think, is really accessible, not just to students who may have disabilities, but for students who might be new to English language learners as well. And even some of our contests, such as our vocabulary video contest. 15-second video is something that all students can make, and our editorial cartoon contest. So we really have a whole range, and it's worth going to the Learning Network homepage and seeing all the different features that we offer. And if you're not sure where to begin, just clicking on the How to Use This site, and that'll give a whole explanation.
All right, another question from Margarita at IH World. I use your photos, pictures, and articles for conversational lessons. Do you have any other ideas to use the NYP for this purpose?
Wow. I mean, we work with quite a few teachers across the country who bring in the print newspaper every day, which is like, what? Expensive and amazing that they do that. And they say almost, what can't you teach with? And we feel like that ourselves, to be honest with you, because it's our job to look at the paper every day and pull the best stuff out. And we're honestly overwhelmed most days. For example, yesterday, Saudi Arabia gave women the right to drive. So this morning we thought, should we be doing our article of the day on that for tomorrow? Or should we be doing it on that really cool thing where the praying mantis's eyes are eaten out from the Science Times? I mean, you can see the kind of dilemmas we have. There's a wealth and embarrassment of riches. So what we always say is that if we were doing this in classrooms ourselves, if there was any way to just give the kids the Times, even in old Times from the library that's a week old, you split up the sections if it's in print, or you project it at the front of the class if it's online, and just ask them, what interests you in the Times? We run a contest all summer long where that's the sole question, and we think for every kid, there's going to be something in that paper that grabs your attention, and finding that thing is making a newsreader out of them. So maybe it's sports, maybe it's science, maybe it's fashion, maybe it's music. It doesn't matter. It's all, written at a pretty sophisticated level. The photojournalism is spectacular. The video, the infographics that support it are amazing. And, all that is coming to read the newspaper. So I'm practically getting myself weepy here. Anyway, that's...
Well, I think we have time for just one more question, and this is from Helene at the Cook Center. Is it possible to look through all the pictures, videos, catalogs, etc., used and choose the picture or video that aligns with what we are doing in class?
So I don't know if you're referring to the photos in what's going on in this picture. And if you are, I think I put 2 links into the group chat. There's the slideshow, and then there's just our whole archive of I don't know how many images from over the past 5 years. And also in Film Club, to go to the Film Club, the collection, and there we have over 50 films. So that's a good place to start to see if something connects in class. But we don't have a table of content, per se, saying here are the photos that connect to if you're studying, France or something like that. And then of course there's the Times itself. I mean, we only scratch the surface of the photos and videos that are published in the Times, every day and every week. And so there's that giant archive. But we do try and find the ones that we think are particularly interesting to students in the classroom.
Are we done? Because I do not want you guys to leave before you know about our next webinar, because check out who our guest is. It's Nick Kristof, op-ed page columnist, and he is going to talk to you about writing to change the world. So if you are among the many, many teachers who use the opinion section to help your kids learn to write argument or participate in our annual student editorial contest, you will not want to miss this. It's on Tuesday, October 10, the same day as what's going on in this graph. How will we pull off both remains to be seen.
And I would say, please help spread the word. These are our, we're beginning this whole webinar project at the Learning Network. This is our first one of the school year, so please tell your colleagues if you enjoyed this and you found it helpful for your teaching, and help spread the word about our free webinars.
And one last item, as soon as we end this webcast, there'll be a survey that comes up. We do read all the feedback and we try to apply it as best we can. Hence, we were getting requests from Nick Kristoff and we're able to deliver.
So signing off from New York City and Houston, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.